I also believe conservatives are inherently monstrous people who will harm folks within our space if left to their own devices.
I don't deserve this. I recycle.
Well, isn't this entertaining? I'm making a response to a response video. There's layers to this. In this video, he discusses conservatives and/or Christian furries. Hi, hello, I'm one if you didn't know. He uses some colorful language when describing them. Monstrous, lazy, cowardly, hateful, even calling them Confederates. So, as the nasty little beast that I am, I'm going to do something absolutely horrifying. I'm going to disagree with him. Or, more specifically, I'm going to say that he's wrong to universally use this characterization. He talks a lot in this video, and I actually recorded a full watch and response. It was 96 minutes long, and I'm gonna be so for real with you right now. I do not have time to edit 96 minutes of my dumbass rambling. And even if I were capable of perfectly articulating an argument for an hour and a half, it wouldn't magically undo whatever experiences brought him to this conclusion. I'm an anonymous blue walks online. I have no method by which I can prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that bigotry isn't lying dormant somewhere in my very bones! And that's part of the problem with characterizations like these. You can't really prove your intent. You can't open your soul, dump it out on the table and say, see, no hatred in there. So I'm not going to attempt to prove that I'm a good person. Maybe you think I am, maybe you think I'm an asshole. Regardless, perhaps it would interest you to know why I think the way that I do, because that's where things get interesting. In his video, he talks about some underlying lie, trauma, indoctrination, fear, or deeply personal experience hidden beneath the surface of the conservative furry, the forbidden seed from which our horrendous worldview grows. And the funny thing is, I actually know what mine is. I know where a huge portion of my political perspective came from. The hidden darkness within. I shall hide it no longer! In all seriousness, I know exactly how I ended up where I am politically. Or at least I know several similar experiences that deeply shaped the direction I went. First, I want to be extremely clear about something. I was never SA'd as a child, but when I was growing up, there were child abusers around me. People who were connected to my life who turned out to have done horrible things. Now, I'm not going to recount other people's trauma in detail. Those aren't my stories to tell, and I don't want to accidentally identify anyone. I'll just simply say I knew far too many victims. And something that stuck out to me was the people responsible often held positions that were supposed to inspire trust. There was a scouting leader, there were religious authority figures, parents, different situations, different people. But my young brain saw the same horrifying pattern. Someone was entrusted with power over another human being, and that power gave them the opportunity to cause tremendous harm.
Sometimes I was the one an unsafe adult was trying to get close to, and I got away. Other times an adult would be around me one day and gone the next. Nobody wanted to explain why, but I would see the fallout with my friends afterwards. That shit affected the way my brain works. Right or wrong, rational or irrational, defensible or completely paranoid, my brain tends to imagine the worst case scenario when authority is involved. I'm not even going to try to defend every one of these thoughts, I just wanted you to hear what they actually sounded like in my head. Red and blue lights come on behind me? My first thought isn't, oh, a routine traffic stop. It's, okay, hands visible, don't make any sudden movement. The cop might be having a really bad day and is already pissed off. Maybe I'll be the person he takes it out on. A priest is talking to my son? My brain goes, nope, I'm staying close enough to hear this conversation. Is that fair to the priest? Probably not. Welcome to my brain! Or picture this, you and I stand next to each other when someone with a clipboard comes running up. Sign this, it's a new federally funded program. It's going to help cure childhood cancer. You are probably picturing the children right now. You know, some little bald 8-year-old finally getting the treatment that he desperately needs. That's not what my brain pictures.
Now just a minute, Sheriff. That's the poor blocks. It sure is, and I'll just take it for poor Prince John. Every little bit helps.
My brain immediately jumps to some lobbyist, grinning in the shadows somewhere in Washington, then to contractors, consultants, committees, administrative overhead, every hand that money passes through. By the time I finally get around to picturing that kid, I'm sitting there wondering, how much of the money actually survived the trip? That's where my head goes. I'm not picturing the destination, I'm picturing the journey. And it's the same thing with trust. I instinctively distrust authority until it gives me a reason not to. I think people in positions of authority should earn that trust. Their expertise, their history, their actions, those things should slowly build credibility with me. So, during COVID, when trust the science was everywhere, I didn't really get hung up on the science part. What my brain heard was,
trust us.
And immediately, my internal response was, why do you have to tell me to trust you? Shouldn't your expertise and your evidence be doing that for you? Look, I'm not making an argument about COVID right now. I'm explaining what those words did inside my head. Someone already had authority over me, and now they're explicitly asking for trust?
Trust me.
Every alarm bell I've got started ringing. On some primal level, that is one of the least persuasive things that you could say to me.
One of the lessons that burned itself into my brain was, where power grows, the potential for abuse grows with it. Now, I'm not presenting that as a mathematical law for the universe. I'm just telling you that's one of my fundamental instincts through which I view authority because of these events. It's why police make me feel uncomfortable. It's why I'm deeply skeptical of politicians and their motives. And it's at the root of why I have trouble accepting the idea that a large, centralized authority will reliably act in the best interest of the people beneath it. Another way to say this is, I generally prefer smaller, decentralized government. And there's another message those experiences scream from the back of my mind. Don't completely rely on somebody else. They can fail you. They can hurt you. Learn how to take care of yourself. So I value self-reliance. This doesn't mean I think that you should turn down help, and I'm not entirely opposed to social safety nets. My preference is to avoid needing them when possible and to help people become as capable and self-sufficient as circumstances will allow. My distrust in authority influenced me in another way. It influenced my opinions about firearms. Let me put it like this. If I'm naturally uncomfortable outsourcing my safety completely to the police, then of course I'm attracted to the idea that I should possess the skills and means to protect myself. That's part of the reason I train with firearms. It's part of the reason I support the Second Amendment so strongly.
I need all the guns!
Okay, maybe not all of them.
I don't hate police. I just don't naturally trust someone because they possess a badge or an official title. Authority doesn't automatically equal virtue. This brings me to another major disagreement that I had with his video. He talks about equity, and from my reading of his argument, especially the way he discusses personal generosity, is that he places considerably more confidence than I do in collective, government-administered solutions funded through taxation. And to be clear, I understand the moral impulse behind that. You see people suffering, you see inequality, you want to organize resources on a large enough scale to do something about that. That's compassionate, and I respect that. My disagreement is with the mechanism. My distrust of concentrated authority makes me deeply skeptical of centralized solutions. And when a problem can be solved effectively by an individual, a family, a neighborhood, a church, a charity, a town, a local organization, I generally see adding additional layers of centralized bureaucracy as adding inefficiency. That doesn't mean everything can be solved locally. Some problems obviously require organization at a much larger scale. My principle is this: as local as possible, as centralized as necessary. It's kind of the rule of subsidiarity. The larger and more powerful an institution becomes, the more cautious I become about giving that institution additional responsibilities over people's lives. And that isn't only because of what personally I witnessed growing up. History gives me plenty of reasons to remain skeptical too. The United States government has participated in profoundly unethical human experimentation. I'm not shining light on these instances to say that the government did something evil once, therefore everything the government does is evil. I'm saying institutions are made of human beings. Humans can be corrupt. And giving institutions enormous amounts of power does not magically remove the human capacity for abuse. It can extend the reach of their abuse. Now, in my experience, a lot of left-leaning people I've met are extremely compassionate. They look at inequalities and say, racism requires correction, sexism requires correction, homophobia requires correction, and of course, I agree. Where I start to separate from them is how I think about inequality and how I think we should respond to it. For example, I don't particularly like the language around privilege. I've seen this framing about privilege invite shame from people who have advantages and envy or resentment from people who don't. I prefer to think of things in terms of blessings and burdens. I have blessings. I'm grateful for them. My family is loving, my friends are many. I had access to good education, my health is generally resilient, and there are countless circumstances in my life that have made things easier for me. Other people carry burdens that I don't, and I carry burdens that they don't. Compassion means recognizing those burdens. Gratitude means recognizing your blessings. What really bothers me is trying to turn the totality of all these blessings and burdens into some neat, administratively measurable hierarchy. Race, sex, sexual orientation, disability, family stability, wealth, health, education, where you were born, who raised you, whether your parents loved each other, whether or not you had an amazing teacher when you were 9. In my mind, this list could be functionally endless. We could all argue about things we've dealt with or things we have over other people, and then we have to argue about how we weigh those things. How heavy of a burden is that? How great of a blessing is that? I really don't believe that the total weight of one human being's blessings and burdens can meaningfully be calculated by some centralized authority. And yes, governments sometimes do attempt to assign categories and monetary values to particular harms. California's Reparations Task Force, for example, was explicitly charged with studying the harms to African Americans and developing proposals for compensation, restitution, and rehabilitation. And now, to be precise, I'm not saying they're literally putting every person in California into a giant spreadsheet and ranking them as to who suffered the most. My objection is broader. Once the government decides that it must correct differences between groups through compensation, it necessarily has to create categories, eligibility requirements, measurements, and rules about which harms warrant which remedies. So, tying this back to my core, I fundamentally distrust the ability of a centralized bureaucracy to adequately capture something as complicated as human life. That's a philosophical disagreement. You can disagree with me too, but that's where I'm coming from. Oh, and despite his mocking tone towards the idea, yes, I genuinely believe that local and personal acts of charity are often superior ways to address individual sufferings when they are actually capable of addressing those particular problems. Not always. I know some problems are enormous. Some problems require resources that Luca and 3 dudes from a local church are not going to pull together by the end of Saturday. I understand that. My argument isn't private charity is perfect. It obviously isn't, but neither are public systems. I prefer decentralized help because of accountability, personal connection, and subsidiarity. We've spent enormous amounts of both public and private money attempting to combat homelessness, hunger, disease, poverty, addiction, and all other forms of suffering. Those problems still exist. That's not proof that either approach accomplishes nothing. It's proof that neither one is a magical solution. My point is simply that continued suffering can't automatically become an argument for throwing another $1 trillion at the same centralized approach and assuming more spending will finally solve it. I also worry about the way continuously providing impersonal assistance can create dependency or an expectation that the assistance will simply continue. Now, I'm not saying that every person receiving government assistance becomes lazy and entitled. That's ridiculous. I'm describing an incentive that I worry about when assistance becomes permanently detached from relationship, reciprocity, accountability, or a pathway towards greater independence. Compare that with helping someone directly. My neighbor's car breaks down, I help him fix it. Maybe 6 months later, my trash can gets blown over in a storm, and that same dude sees me picking up the scattered trash and comes to help me out. That's not a transfer of resources, that's a relationship, that's a community. There are actually some really interesting concepts surrounding this. Subsidiarity, then there's the identifiable victim effect. Research has found that people can respond more strongly to identifiable individuals in need rather than anonymous statistical victims. Then there's the concept of crowding out. Economic research has found that government grants can partially displace private charitable giving or fundraising in some circumstances. These aren't scientific commandments saying, "Luca is right, abolish welfare tomorrow!" That's not what the research proves. These concepts help explain why I see value in keeping assistance personal and decentralized, whenever that's realistically possible. There's also an accountability difference that really matters to me. If I donated $100 to a charity and discover that they're completely wasting it, I can say, "Wow, you guys suck," and then never give them a dime. And that is a very direct accountability mechanism. Government obviously has an accountability system too. Auditors, inspector generals, elections, congressional oversight, the Government Accountability Office. My issue is that the individual taxpayer doesn't have the same right of exit. If I believe that a federal program is ineffective, I can't personally redirect portions of my tax funding into something I think works better. Also, the institutional oversight itself can identify persistent failures without automatically eliminating them. That's the distinction I'm making. Private charity gives the individual donor an immediate exit. Government accountability works through institutional and political mechanisms. Private charity gives me absolute control of where my next dollar goes. Government spending doesn't. That's why I trust the first mechanism more. Here's the funny part. I understand his thought process. I can imagine the noble intent underneath a lot of what he's saying. He wants vulnerable people protected. He wants inequality addressed. He doesn't want hateful people to use political ideology as an excuse to hurt others. Great! Neither do I. And he's even right about something that initially sounds kind of insulting. My political worldview absolutely was shaped by deeply personal experiences. He got that part right. They just didn't shape me in the way that he imagined. The fear that developed inside of me was not, "Those people are different from me, somebody save me!" What I actually took from it was, people with power can hurt people beneath them. Be extremely careful about giving anybody too much power. And that lesson eventually influenced how I think about the police. Government, self-defense, charity, taxes, social programs, individual responsibility, and political power, generally speaking. Perhaps you think I took the wrong lesson from those experiences. That's a perfectly legitimate argument to make, but there's a difference between saying, "I think your conclusions are wrong," and saying, "You only hold those conclusions because you're fundamentally monstrous, hateful, lazy, cowardly, or broken." I don't think that second approach really gets us anywhere. But seriously, I'm glad this dude is here. He seems intelligent. He gives a perspective that is radically different from mine. And voices like his help ensure that my own worldview doesn't slowly turn into some sort of toxic little bubble on the internet, where everybody agrees with me and tells me how brilliant I am. I'm grateful for my friends who disagree with me. I'm grateful for my family who disagrees with me. My own wife and I disagree about plenty of things. And I'm grateful for videos like this one, because I like being forced to stop and ask, why do I believe that? Where did that come from? Can I defend that? Is there evidence against it? Have I misunderstood the other side? Because on this point, I absolutely agree with him. If questioning one of your principles immediately sends you into a fearful or antagonistic rage, you probably need to question it harder, dig deeper, ask uncomfortable questions, and occasionally reevaluate where you stand. So, thank you, good sir, for your video, and to everyone who bore with me through my endless political prattle. To you I say, bye, fruity bitches.